In previous episodes of this show, we've covered various aspects of the mid-1980s indie comic boom, covering such subjects as Eastman and Laird's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ben Edlund's The Tick, Dave Stevens' The Rocketeer, and Matt Wagner's Grendel. Now let's add another creator to that vein, Howard Chaykin.
Chaykin came up in the industry as a protege of Gil Kane. From there he would go to working on DC anthology titles like Young Romance and Weird War Tales. His big break came when he did the artwork for Marvel's adaptation of Star Wars. He also had artwork that was featured in the anthology movie Heavy Metal.
In 1983, Chaykin began working with First Comics on a series that was set in a dystopian future that was based entirely on a wholly consumerist culture in the United States that led to the entire country being taken over by a megacorporation and people being forced to live in cities that were structured more like shopping malls. Thankfully, none of that is relevant today.
The corporation in question, Plex, was so powerful that it even had its own private police force. The main character in this comic would be a rookie Plexus Ranger named Reuben Flagg. Flagg was also a former TV star who would strive to walk a fine line in an ultra-powerful and corrupt police state.
Thankfully, we don't live at all in a world with an overly militarized and morally questionable police department attacking innocent civilians. That's just the stuff of nightmares, I guess. Anyway, today we're looking at the first 12 issues of this series. This is Howard Chaykin's American Flagg.
The year is 2031. A ship from the Plex colony on Mars makes its way towards Earth in the city Plex Mall of Chicago. As the ship makes its way through the abandoned satellite field, their special guest tries chatting up the pilots. They run into some trouble and it looks like it's going to be a bumpy landing ahead. In the Plex Mall, Plexus Ranger Detective Hilton Hammerhead Krieger chats with his daughter Mandy. She's technically a ranger as well, though she's relegated to air traffic duty. Anyway, it's time for Krieger to pick up his newest recruit at the airport. Hammerhead's previous partner was killed in a shootout with some biker gangs, so the new guy is the replacement. Nothing is known about him except that he asked to actually be placed on Earth. So imagine Krieger's surprised when the jet-lagged recruit bumps into a diplomatic representative from Brazil. It's then that Krieger recognizes who this guy is. It's none other than Reuben Flagg, aka Mark Thrust, TV's most beloved porn star.
Yes, obviously this story takes place during a sexually liberated future dystopia. I'll elaborate more on the societal structure of the Plex as we weave our way through this story.
Flagg explains the show is continuing just without him. It happens every so often as actors are body mapped into the show. Whenever there's a tech upgrade, the actor in the lead role is replaced. Krieger shows Flagg around the Chicago Plex Mall, introducing him to Mandy and the local madam, Gretchen Holstrom. Krieger then has to leave in order to tackle another gang riot, leaving Reuben to retire to his apartment and start the next day. Flagg makes his way to his new home to find Gretchen waiting for him. He's too tired for any fun, but she's a big fan of Mark Thrust and knows that he can, rise to the occasion. The next morning, Flagg is greeted by Mandy and C.K. Blitz, the mayor of Chicago. She's immediately judgmental over Gretchen's surprise visit last night. Not that she's interested or anything. Besides, Flagg needs to get to work after receiving his assignment from Raoul.
Raoul is a hyper-intelligent talking cat. There's no exact reason given for his existence other than future.
Hilton Krieger arrives and explains that he arranged for Gretchen to be at the apartment last night, and it's all on tape. Still, it's time for patrols. The two begin flying over the suburbs and witness two paramilitary groups fight. It's all staged for TV, though, and the Rangers aren't exactly needed for it. Reuben makes it through his first week, and he's already wondering if transferring to Earth may have been a bit of a mistake. He starts making a journal entry, only to be interrupted by a man named Cyril Farid Khan, leader of the Generic Warlords biker gang.
The Genetic Warlords are a motorcycle gang who, along with their rivals, the Ethical Mutants, are whipped up into a riotous frenzy whenever the screening of a television series called Bob Violence occurs.
Cyril explains that he had an arrangement with Flagg's predecessor, $1,000 a week, and the Warlords will make sure to aim high during the riots. Flagg pays the bribe and heads home to watch some Bob Violence. It's then he notices something. Words begin appearing on the screen, encouraging viewers to riot. Some type of subliminal advertising is going on. It's probably having an effect on the gangs because they're all stoned out of their gourds. The next day, Flagg confronts Krieger, who denies everything. He doesn't even see the messages. But Raoul points out that he can see them, and he doesn't bring it up because, well, no one listens to the cat. Not to mention, since Plex owns the show, putting it off the air could mean your life. When the riot breaks out, Flagg goes straight after Cyril. He was bribed to aim high, but that doesn't mean Flagg has to leave him alone. After Cyril's arrested, Mandy overhears Flagg and her father arguing and goes into business for herself. She finds a bylaw allowing the program to be preempted for security reasons and replaced. Flagg manages to get the show off the air, and Krieger prepares for the mother of all riots. Nothing happens. The gangs are completely out of it. No riot this week. To celebrate, Gretchen offers free drinks at her club, the Love Canal. Everyone has fun throughout the night, with Gretchen stealing Flagg away once more to Mandy's chagrin. However, before she can experience Mark Thrust 2.0, Gretchen falls asleep. Flagg uses the opportunity to take a long-deserved nap.
Another aspect of Plex society is that all sports have been prohibited. However, several politicians, including Mayor Blitz, run black market basketball teams, with the games being televised on a pirate television broadcast signal.
The next day, Flagg is assigned to guard Mayor Blitz at the wedding of a major campaign donor. While looking on, Flagg meets up with the bride's sister, who's a big fan. The two slip off to the ladies' room, only for the happy fun time to be interrupted by a shootout. The wedding was attacked by extremists opposing a mixed marriage between a Jew and a Muslim. Thankfully, everyone is armed, even the wedding party, and Flagg is able to lead them out to safety. After getting the happy couple to their honeymoon flight and meeting the diplomats from Brazil again, named Ernesto and Esther, Flagg slips off to meet up with a new female friend, a pilot named Crystal Marakova.
In the world of American flag, the Soviet Union actually collapsed in 1996 thanks to an Islamic uprising. Crystal's parents were Soviet citizens who defected to the U.S. in order to seek asylum.
As Flagg prepares to leave with Crystal, he gets jumped by a woman named Medea, who it turns out is Cyril Khan's girlfriend. He's knocked out, leaving Crystal to chase her off. The two then bump into Mandy, who's with a friend named John Shaiskov. Not that anyone's jealous or anything. Flagg and Crystal hook up and then make plans for later, only for Krieger to send Ruben out on duty to muck around with him. Someone has been attacking livestock on a farm and backup is needed. Flagg jumps the two attackers, who immediately fall over dead. Flagg unmasks the two and discovers that they're both children who had cyanide capsules stuck in their teeth to rupture when needed. The two have the letters ASLC tattooed on their faces. Flagg returns to Crystal, only to be interrupted by Raoul. There's been a murder. Hilton Krieger is dead. As they rush to Krieger's home, Flagg and Crystal see Cyril and Medea speeding away on a motorcycle. Flagg's suspicions are confirmed when he finds a lock of blonde hair in Krieger's hand. This leaves Mayor Blitz to have to make a very difficult call.
One little factoid I neglected to mention earlier was that Medea's last name is Blitz. She is the daughter of Mayor Blitz and a woman named Peggy, who it turns out is Hamilton Krieger's ex-wife and Mandy's mother, meaning the two are actually half-sisters. It only gets more twisted from there.
Mandy enters the abode and demands to play a role in the investigation. She knows Chicago better than Flagg does, but she also has an ulterior motive in that she's seeking out a keepsake that belonged to her late mother. Raoul pipes up with some information, but Flagg doesn't want to hear it and leaves with Mandy. Mandy uses her connections to set up an appointment with an informant named Bill. It'll be 3 hours, but that's actually for a good reason. Mandy's had a really long and hard, difficult day, and, well, she really needs to blow off some steam, if you catch my drift. Almost 3 hours later, and the two make their way to a bar called The Witness. Mandy is a regular and in good with the owner named Chief Witness. Chief hits things off with Flagg, who asks about ASLC, and Chief is mortified in his response.
ASLC stands for American Survivalist Labor Committee. They are a group of pro-nuclear proliferation anti-immigrant bigots. To put it simply, they think Nazis, who also exist in the American flag universe, are just a tiny bit too lenient. Also, Mandy's informant Bill, he's actually Prince William, heir to the British throne. Yeah, this Prince William. The British monarchy was abolished in a conflict with Ireland that has fought through to this very day.
Mandy has learned something interesting about Medea. She's pregnant and Cyril isn't the father. Hilton Krieger is, or should I say was. Soon the two happen across Cyril and Medea, who take off on their motorcycle. Mandy shoots out the vehicle's tires, causing a crash. Flagg catches Cyril, preventing him from falling over a bridge, and Mandy calls Flagg over as Medea begins suffering a miscarriage. The group books it to a hospital, with Cyril denying any involvement in Krieger's death. Medea's condition is stabilized, but the baby's gone. Further searching fails to turn up the keepsake. Flagg heads off to jam up Bob Violence once again, as they still haven't traced the subliminal messages yet. When Raoul comes to him, he knows where the keepsake is. It's in his collar. It's a duplicate key. Krieger's killer has the original, but still this copy is good enough, as it leads to a room full of illegal broadcasting equipment.
This broadcast center is called QUSA, and it's the largest pirate television station in the world that broadcasts anti-plex propaganda.
Raoul directs Flagg to a videotape containing Hilton Krieger's last testament. He explains that he and Mayor Blitz used to fight the system until they were arrested for the 13th time and forced to work in the system by joining the Plexus Rangers. They had always planned to shake things up from inside until Peggy and eventually Mandy came along. Still, they tried to fight the system as best they could, with Krieger starting QUSA and CK Blitz moving into politics. Unfortunately, Krieger threw himself too much in his work, and Peggy eventually sought solace in Mayor Blitz's arms. This led to the conception of Medea. Peggy then left Krieger and Mandy, but he tried to put a good face on it. However, the tape playing means he's dead, and probably not by natural causes. Now the new keyholder must keep QESA on the air and keep Mandy away from it. Krieger starts to go into the truth about the Plex when an intruder approaches. It's Mandy's friend John Shaiskov. He's actually an internal affairs agent with the Plexus Rangers, tasked with trying to locate QUSA and shutting the station down. He's also the man who killed Hilton Krieger. Before Shaiskov can kill Flagg, Raoul jumps him and then the two humans begin fighting. Shaiskov appears to have the upper hand at first, but Flagg eventually rallies back, knocks him out with a chair, and then pounds his head into the pavement. Later, Flagg tells Mandy what happened with Shaiskov. Also, Flagg doped him up with tranquilizers and left him in the middle of the highway. Mob violence wasn't preempted, so there's going to be another riot very shortly. That should take care of everything. Finally, he'll let Mandy into QUSA on occasion, but until then, it's going to remain under his control.
You may have noticed me talking about a Brazilian contingent a few occasions. Yeah, Brazil is now a world superpower and a business rival to the Plex.
The Plex Ball is renamed in honor of Hilton Krieger and begins playing host to a ceasefire talk between Ireland and Britain. It's not very effective. Flagg is overwhelmed as he inherited Krieger's position at the Rangers, and they are understaffed. Mayor Blitz has an offer. If Flagg chaperones his basketball team, the Skokie Skullcrushers, on a trip through Havana and Brasilia, then Flagg will get the deputy he's been making multiple requests for. Oh, and one more thing. In an effort to avoid jail time, Medea Blitz has agreed to join the Plexus Rangers, and her training is slated to start in Brasilia very soon. However, one piece of good news does come along, as it turns out the subliminal message has been traced back to, of all places, Brazil. With everything in tow, Flagg and Crystal then board a blimp to Cuba. Unfortunately, any further canoodling gets interrupted once more, this time by Irish terrorists who have a nuke on board. With a desperate need for backup, Flagg makes a deal with Jules, the captain of the Skokie Skullcrushers, for real food and a cutback on steroids in exchange for help. The basketball team proves to be the difference, and it turns out the nuke isn't actually just a prop. Touching down in Havana, Medea says her goodbyes as her flight to Brasilia leaves right away. Flagg then gets the name of Medea's new drill instructor and sends a chill down his spine. Ivor Overholt.
Ivor Overholt was a classmate of Reuben Flagg at the Plexus Ranger Academy who bullied him constantly for being Jewish. Spoilers, Overholt hasn't matured that much.
Things don't get much better for Flagg in Havana as he's accosted by two prostitutes. A detective named Ned Beaumont then intervenes and points out these two girls are actually part of a thievery ring. However, all of this is just a distraction to get Flagg's wallet, as it turns out Beaumont's real name is Tom Slick. Added to that, at the game, a riot breaks out when the Skullcrushers' opponents decide to use highlight hammers as weapons. In an attempt to get the team to safety, Flagg receives an unlikely assist from, of all people, Tom Slick. His real name is Sam Luis Obispo. He's looking to set up shop in Brasilia and returns Flagg's wallet after setting up some free nighttime fun for the two.
You know, for a story about a former porn star and his exploits at a sexually liberated future, there's a surprising lack of nudity in this book. There's just a couple of bare butt shots and a silhouetted nipple. That's about it.
Everyone soon moves on to Brazil, where Flagg checks in on Medea at Plexus Ranger headquarters. Surprisingly enough, it's not going very well and she's not fitting in. He then meets up with his former CO, Emmett Golem, and several of his new trainees from New Orleans. Ivor Overholt is also there, and nothing has really changed. Flagg then joins up with a group of Rangers sent out to quell a protest with rubber bullets.
Ah yes, rubber bullets, because we all know those things are completely harmless.
Flagg has to break away from the group when he spots Obispo in the crowd thinking it was a business opportunity. He also begins smelling a rat when he witnesses several displays of excessive force. It gets worse when he chats with Bill, aka Prince William, who points out the subliminal messages have been traced to the Plex Mall in Brasilia. Not to mention, all of Flagg's exploits on this trip are being monitored by someone. Things get stranger when at a party where Medea Blitz is waiting tables as part of a hazing ritual. Flagg meets Overholt's wife, who's also the daughter of the mayor of Brasilia. Her name is Desiree Deutschmarks Overholt, except Flagg recognizes her as a different name, Veronica, one of Obispo's call girls. She points out that her marriage to Overholt is just a marriage of political convenience and they have absolutely no sex life as she tries to put the moves on Flagg, but he shoots her down. Meanwhile, a plan is being made to attack the basketball game and frame Flagg for everything. It turns out that one of Golem's recruits, Pelham Riverdale, is in on everything and working with the Nazis. The trap is set for the basketball game, with Flagg leading a court of cadets, including a belligerent Medea, into the arena. However, he has a man on the inside at Obispo. Flagg begins leading the cadets on a path of least effectiveness, while Obispo and the Skullcrushers ask for their payment to be transferred up front. They then run into who they think is Flagg, only for it turn out to be Pelham Riverdale. Riverdale gets killed in the struggle. Flagg inspects Riverdale's body and turns up an ASLC card. He then gets everyone to safety and goes to confront his higher-ups, where he notices a picture of Peggy Krieger on Golem's desk. Golem kicks Flagg out, where he bumps into Overholt. Flagg then passes along an apology gift to Overholt's wife. Then, while out on patrol, Flagg's chopper gets attacked by another Ranger chopper. Flagg gets the other chopper damaged and notices a blonde woman crawling from the wreckage. He chases the woman into a strip club and takes her down a flight of stairs. The woman dies from a broken neck, where it's discovered that the woman is in reality Ivor Overholt. Flagg goes to Golem's apartment and arrests him. There's just one question. Golem is Jewish. Why hook up with a Nazi like Overholt? Golem confirms that he had an affair with Peggy Krieger, who disappeared before the two could get married. 10 years later, he told the story to Overholt while drunk. Ivor then began dressing like Peggy to fulfill Golem's fantasies, and Golem then blows his head off. Still, Bob Violence is now subliminal message free, and the ASLC is to blame. Flagg prepares to return to the Chicago Plex Mall with Crystal, the Skull Crushers, and Obispo, who's lost all of his business connections in Brazil.
Okay, there's a minor subplot I kind of skipped over here involving a Russian satellite that was put up in 1996 to try to hack the presidential election by causing a massive snowstorm. I know, Russians hacking a presidential election, completely strange, right? Anyway, the satellite got reactivated and it's now caused a major blizzard in Chicago.
The snowstorm is forcing people from outside Chicago to move into the Plex Mall. They're called dispers, and they are not welcomed with open arms. On top of that, there appears to be a secret Brazilian cabal looking to take over the U.S. branch of Plex. Meanwhile, Raul has been gifted a pair of special gloves that act as hands, which means he can do more around the office. As for Flagg, he's busy breaking in his new deputy, Luther Ironheart, a repurposed military android. The problem is that Luther doesn't seem to comprehend human interaction, when to draw a gun, how to lay in an ambush, or, well, pretty much anything involved in law enforcement. This is demonstrated when he breaks up a robbery involving supplies being sent into Chicago. Flagg wanted the perps to be arrested, but Luther just kills them all. Flagg then stops off for a bite at a local diner. There he meets a young doctor named Tatiana Weiss. The two hit it off and begin flirting, but it's interrupted by a shootout involving ASLC members. Weiss helps Flagg fight off the gunman, and the two end up helping a wounded bystander. The two make plans to meet up later, and Weiss then makes a call to someone named Decker.
Decker is the name of the leader of the ASLC.
Over at QUSA, Flagg is beginning to crack under the strain of running the pirate station. He has no experience at this, and it's just too much for him. He then goes to a bar where Mayor Blitz tells him that Medea is coming back for the holidays. She's adjusting well to Ranger life and might be coming home permanently. Flagg then meets up with Weiss, and things start to get hot and heavy until Flagg notices Weiss's necklace.
I hate Illinois Nazis.
Look, I was going to have to work in that joke eventually.
Flagg is revolted at first, but she points out that there's a thrill in the taboo hookup, and he agrees but rips off the necklace. Afterwards, Flagg gets a call from Raul. The blimp carrying Medea Blitz has gone down. Added to that, Mayor Blitz has been taken hostage by some rebellious dispers. Ashamed of his recent actions, Flagg takes out his feelings on the hostage takers and organizes a search party for the blimp crash. While others go inspect the blimp crash, Flagg has two things to take care of. First, he has to break up an attack on an abattoir where people are slaughtering cows when they're not supposed to be. After that, it's on to a new hangout, the Chatterbox Bar, to talk with Bill and Witness about taking over QUSA. Despite Raul's objections, Flagg knows that this group is better equipped to handle the station and get the proper information out in the right amount of time. Flagg returns to headquarters where Mayor Blitz chastises him for not turning up any information on Medea, who then pops right through the front door and collapses. Dr. Weiss is with her, and she explains that Medea led a party of survivors to the Plex Mall through the snowstorm.
In another subplot, Ernesto, one of the Brazilian diplomats, has become romantically involved with Gretchen Holstrom. While the two are venturing outside Chicago, they encounter a young girl on the run from her ASLC father. The trio try to get away, but they're eventually captured, with Ernesto being killed and Gretchen getting assaulted.
At the hospital, Medea explains that she was diagnosed with diabetes, which explains but doesn't forgive many of her exploits. She wants to set things right and be part of one of the Rangers. Also, she's certain that the blimp she was on was shot down by something. Flagg then receives a call about Ernesto and Gretchen. He sets out with a party to find the two along with the girl. The young lady's cyanide tooth is extracted, and Raul comforts her as she sleeps in a cell. As this is happening, Flagg goes to check on Esther's computer. He knows she's been romancing Mayor Blitz and has somehow gotten her hands on the blimp's flight recorder, which does reveal that the Brazilians shot it down. However, the joke is on Flagg as he finds out that Esther forged his signature on a requisition form for a Ranger van and left. Also, the little girl is dead. She was poisoned by something because Luther couldn't detect the poison. On top of that, Raul has also ingested some of the poison when the girl collapsed and vomited on him.
Don't worry, Raul survives.
Piecing together that the Brazilians are in league with the ASLC and also possibly the Nazis, Flagg vows to bring them in. He sets out to track down the van Esther stole while rushing Raul to the vet. Flagg leaves Luther to fill Mayor Blitz and Gretchen in on everything. Meanwhile, Dr. Weiss meets with Decker about a package that's arrived. 2 cybernetic enhancement legs that will enable him to be strong enough to take over the Plex. However, Dr. Weiss actually has another user for those legs in mind. She never intended to use them on Decker, as she feels the ASLC is too extreme for even the Illinois Nazis. As this is happening, QUSA enlists Mandy Krieger's assistance in tracking down Esther's whereabouts. She directs Flagg to a bar where a meeting with the ALC is taking place. However, the attendees point out that a different group of gun-wielding idiots popped up and kidnapped Esther, taking her somewhere off into the northwest. Once more, Flagg enlists Mandy's aid in tracking down the getaway vehicle. He frees Esther and sends the van over the edge of a bridge. Unfortunately for Esther, any documents proving that she had control over Illinois and most of Indiana are lost in the crash. The group then returns to QUSA only to hear that Bill has been taken hostage by the Nazis. It's then that a news report comes out. Reuben Flagg is wanted for treason. The warrant has been issued by the new head of the Plexus Rangers, John Scheisskopf.
Yes, Hamilton Krieger's killer, John Scheisskopf, was the recipient of the mechanical leg implants from Dr. Weiss. The Chicago Plex Ball is now being run by both the Nazis and the ASLC. Mayor Blitz is just a figurehead, and Prince William is their hostage.
Scheisskopf immediately sets about blackmailing Mayor Blitz with info on the Skull Crushers and granting Medea a deputyship, pointing out that he's colorblind and willing to work any angles that suit his needs. Medea doesn't like this, but feels duty-bound. The next order of business for Scheisskopf is to track down Raoul, so he can eat him.
Boo!
Thankfully, Raoul manages to blast his way out on a snowmobile and escapes. He reunites with Flagg and Mandy, who have figured out that the Russian satellite is behind the snowstorm and they're trying to use it to an advantage. Still, there's more planning that needs to be done. Flagg hits on an idea when Mandy turns up several subliminal latent episodes of Bob Violence. First, they need to free the Skull Crushers, who have already joined forces with Obispo. Unfortunately, one of the players, Tiny, is mortally wounded by a dud grenade during the escape.
Also, Scheisskopf has begun working closely, and I do mean very closely, with Desiree Deutschmarks. You know, Overholt's widow, who is also one of Obispo's call girls. I mean, really, why not at this point?
Scheisskopf offers a full pardon to any criminal who brings in Obispo, Flagg, or anyone plotting against him. This intensifies the pressure on the insurgents, and added to this, Esther escapes to further her own goals. It also turns out that Bill is the only person capable of hacking the Russian satellite. Still, they have one more trick up their sleeve, in the form of Bob Violence. The group puts out one of the subliminal latent reruns, and the riots resume. Except the warlords get jumped by Flagg and his crew. They're rounded up and given an offer: detox and join up with the Skull Crushers, or die. Meanwhile, Scheisskopf meets up with Weiss. He's at his wit's end as Chicago Plex Mall is just too dirty and can't be saved, so the only option is to just flood the city with poison gas. As to when the evacuation is going to start, it'll happen at some point.
Also, Gretchen catches Esther poking around Ernesto's office. She confronts Esther over the death of Ernesto, and the two wind up fighting. Gretchen eventually kills Esther, and the shock of it is enough to snap her out of her funk and make her realize that she is actually the long-missing Peggy Krieger.
Another rerun of Bob's Violence gets played, and this is being used as a distraction to break into the Ranger Precinct and free Bill. Raoul guides the heir to the throne of England out of the precinct by commandeering Luther's inert android body. Medea Blitz has a chance to capture the two of them, however, she decides instead to lower her gun and resign her post, as Raoul and Bill get into a car being driven by Crystal. She's arrested, and Desiree and Scheisskopf order Weiss to lobotomize her into subservience. Unfortunately, Bill isn't able to hack the satellite, but he has a better idea to eliminate Scheisskopf. Luther is reactivated, and the Skull Crushers have noticed several ASLC troops bugging out as the poison gas attack is being prepared. The plan will have to be initiated right away. Obispo uses Manny and Crystal as undercover prostitutes to learn about the exact specific of Scheisskopf's plan. QUSA then launches a new subliminal attack over all of television programming. Instead of inciting violence, this emphasizes paranoia and anxiety. Also, the news of the gas attack is leaked. The mother of all riots breaks out, and Scheisskopf damns everyone by ordering the gas attack. Weiss cuts her losses in splits, while the insurgents seal the exits. Flagg and Mandy then work together to free Mayor Blitz and Gretchen, who reveals her true identity, and that the gas attack is laced into the computer system. Flagg moves on to jump Scheisskopf. Scheisskopf makes his way to an escape elevator, but Flagg launches a grenade into it before he can leave. Gretchen then uses the computer to call off the gas attack, and Medea is freed and reinstated as a Plexus Ranger. As things settle down, Peggy/Gretchen and Mandy try to catch up, but it's gonna be a while. Still, Mandy makes a late-night booty call to Flagg, only for it to be interrupted by the sudden appearance of Scheisskopf. Scheisskopf then crushes Flagg's ankle with his bionic leg, but Flagg shoves a shard of glass in Scheisskopf's chest. He then rams the disgraced Ranger headfirst through a wall of TVs. Mandy comes bursting in and begins comforting the traumatized Flagg, saying that Scheisskopf is now finally dead.
And that concludes our look at the first 12 issues of Howard Chaykin's American Flagg. How was it? Well, on the plus side, I do like a lot of the story in this. I love a lot of the dark humor that's involved, although admittedly my favorite part of the humor is the inadvertent stuff, like the idea of VHS tapes and shopping malls being relevant in 2031. But still, there's some really good dark humor in this, there's some very well-rounded characters, it's all complemented by some nice artwork, and yeah, the story is oddly relevant today. In fact, it's probably even more relevant given the last few weeks as of this recording than it was when it came out in 1986. If there is a drawback, and unfortunately it is a big drawback, is that the pacing of the story is all over the place. The first part of the story, where everything up through Brazil, is way too drawn out, it's padded, there's way too many dead zones where just nothing happens, and you're taking 2 or 3 pages to sum up something that could easily be summed up in one. And then the last 3 issues with Chaykin and the ASLC taking over the Plex Mall, those are too jam-packed. There's way too much going on there. I couldn't keep track of any of the characters. I couldn't remember who was important and who wasn't. That's why so much of the subplots are kind of all over the place. They just don't feel right in this story. Like they needed their own time to breathe and they never really got that. So it really did drag this down a lot for me, unfortunately. I am going to still recommend American Flagg. It's still very good. Still, like I said, oddly relevant today. But I can't wholly recommend it, and that's why I'm going to give American Flagg Volume 1 a B. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions. There, you can request a trade to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. Also, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.